Welcome back to the Tiger Hanger. This is Mike, and I'm coming at you with the 01 Studio Cell Unicron, also the Zeta Core Star. And this is a good looking figure. They actually did quite a few great things with this figure. We're going to have a look at it. I did get this from Show Z. You could get yours there too. There'll be a link down below. Let's get right into this. Let's have a good look at his packaging, and the thing about the packaging is that they didn't want to show it's Unicron. It's whatever, I guess. That's the back of it. The front has these weird squiggly design characters. 01S01, 01 Studio Cell. I'm not sure 100% if Studio Cell's the name of the company, theoretically. If it's a new company that made it, or Zeta just changed their name, kind of like Fantasy Perfect Fusion, who knows? Don't know. We'll find out eventually if they come out with the Studio Cell 02, 02S. But this is where the head and then the planetary ring, the cape, it comes in that box. Alright, so here he is in his planet mode, and that is definitely a Unicron. You can tell this is Unicron. It's pretty impressive how it turns into a sphere. The extremely symmetrical transformation. But let's take a good look at this planet mode, and as you can see, it is a pretty good sphere. It does have the planetary rings on it. Has a lot of different color breakup with the orange, the blue, the different orange, the different blue, the silver, the charcoal colors in there. And then looking to the back, there is so much detail in this. So there's quite a bit of detail. But you know, the funny thing is the way it's colored, even though there's not a whole lot of paint, it's just the color of the plastic, it still looks like it's part of the cartoon. It does match the cartoon colors very well. I do like that. So let's look at a couple of the gimmicks, I guess you could say, but they're actually features. First of all, you can have this nice looking front, this nice piece right here. You get two of them because everything's symmetrical, and the other one can get used as a stand. And he has this little, I guess the tractor beam that goes with it, but that's part of the stand. So it's duplicated. Everything they made with this figure pretty much is just duplicated. That was a symmetrical transformation and the symmetrical stand. Here's what it looks like with the tractor beam on it, and I think that does look pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of the tractor beam so much, but it's okay. I probably wouldn't display it like that, but it's something that you could do for a scene, and it would work really well with Legends figures. We'll show that here in a little bit. I've already noticed it has a lighting feature, and basically you're pushing the top of the head to get it to light and to turn on and off. You can open his teeth here, his mouth, and it will expose basically the head. Now this does not look that great. This looks kind of cheap, and in the pictures that I saw for this thing, I did say, hey, that looks kind of cheap the way they did that, which is why they, of course, included a nice, better, premium type of mouth. Now, HasLab's going to have a much more complicated gimmick, but the gimmick itself, to have a more complicated mouth and have that look a lot better, well, you pay for that with a less clean bot mode, and this has a clean bot mode. So, you know, it's give and take with pretty much everything. Speaking of clean modes, if you wanted this to have less orange and more blue, you have all of these replacement panels that could get put on here, and they simply just pop off and pop on. And you could replace all of these panels throughout here, this one, and make it more blue. You would just really just have the orange stripe left, and the rest would be all blue, 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 blue. It would work. If that's something that you want to do, it's possible, and they give you the parts for that. Now, if you want to have all the spikiness in it, they have spikes for all over this guy and screw hole covers. I am not going to mess with that because I would break it, and I will not be displaying this guy in his alt mode. Even though it's a pretty decent alt mode, my plan is bot mode on it. So we're going to get into that here in a little bit. But if you want to put all these spikes on it, you can do it. Now, in order to connect the other mouth jaw piece, you have it right here. There's some tabs on either side, 4 holes, plug it in. It just simply plugs in. Now this 4 tabs, 4 holes, and it plugs in also. If I can line that up, it's probably easier to plug it in, plug this in separately, like so, and then plug this in because this will line up like that. Okay, lights on. Now, let's see if we can get an effect with a little Keychain Megatron in here. Well, that's kind of what it would look like. If you put the Keychain Megatron in there. There he is. Megatron, I have summoned you. So real quick, we have the Keychain Megatron, we have Magic Square Optimus Prime, and New Age Megatron. As you can see, he's about the same size in planet mode as the Armada version of Unicron. He's a little bit bigger, a whole lot rounder, looks a lot better, but size-wise, not a whole lot more than what you already got with Armada. And here's how he looks with the little Dollar Tree mini figures. Looks good. So there's a few things about these mandibles. You can use it to hold Megatron and, you know, eat Megatron with it. But you can also have a lot of rotation with it. It rotates out and it rotates on its own hinge right here. So there's quite a bit you can do with these mandibles or claws or whatever you want to call them. Now, they will get bent up because of the transformation, the way they sit in there. So, I mean, there's a hairdryer or a heat gun method that would help you with that. I would not bend it because it could snap. It is very, very, very thin plastic at the end and very sharp. So for me though, I'm just not going to mess with it because it's going to get bent back up when it goes into robot mode. So let's just get this guy transformed up. We're going to start by removing the rings, and it's going to shift a little bit on you. But if you tabbed them in really tight, then it's going to be kind of tight to get them out and kind of a challenge. So be a bit careful with that when you remove the rings. We're going to set them aside. We're going to deal with that later. And then now what you want to do is go around to each of these white tabs that are holding it in, and you want to untab them, which it could take a great deal of force to do that. I use just my nail. Other people use something called a spudger. I think a spudger might be better. That is requiring a tremendous amount of force to accomplish that. Once you get all of those untabbed, then you're going to want to come down here and just start popping loose a lot of these tabs. We got these down here that hold in some pieces, and it's funny how when you're transforming it, everything pops apart, but once you have everything tabbed together, then it really does want to hold together pretty well. Put it on the stand for a second as you start to loosen up and undo these pieces here. Let's get that out of the way. You're going to be untabbing. They're right here, some tabs. And I like to start with the legs, but with this I'm going to have to start with the arms because the way everything is just dependent on itself and the next step, I just really can't do my normal that I usually do where I start with the legs. So I'm going to have to get this arm untabbed. There's a tab right here. Now I am using a padded table, so if you had a really, really hard surface, you might break something, all the little detail. I might still break all the little detail using a padded surface, so yeah, you just have to be careful with that. And there's so many tabs, you just have to watch for each and every one of these little tabs as you're going. But here we are working on an arm, and as you can see, we have the first arm out. And what we're going to do with that is we have to lift this piece up. We're going to fold, get it clearance there. We're going to fold these pieces in on that, and then with this piece, it flips up and it flips around, and then fold it down. This is going to go back, and this is going to go into, this is going to be the shoulder. You can fold it down. There's a hole there and a tab, and it's on the same on both sides. Fit the shoulder in there like so. Tab it in. And as long as the tab lines up, you know you've got it in the correct space. And then fold the shoulder part down. Right down here, we're going to flip this around and then flip these pieces around so that you can form the fist. And a lot of great detail in here that didn't have to go in here. It's never really going to get seen. It's just impressive, I have to admit. With this, let's go ahead and fold out the hand since we're right here. Somehow my thumb is getting hung up. That's crazy. And then we have this little piece here, which is kind of like an extra wrist piece. And now you see we have kind of a clean part versus a not clean part. It's going to tab in with these two tabs into these two holes on both sides of it, and this compresses down right here. So press down, tab all that in, and then situate the arm. We've got one arm done. Okay, I'm working on this leg here. We need to start untabbing all of this good fun stuff so that we can access the leg. And all right, the best way I see to untabbing this, there's the tab, is I'm going to put my thumb in here and pull. One tab at a time. Oh, I got both tabs at the same time? Okay, there we go. Now, looking down here, we can pull this down a bit, but we have to clear. Do I have everything untabbed? I mean, it's all untabbed, but we have to pull this leg out. Okay, untab these side pieces right here. Pull the leg like so. What's not clearing? Let's go ahead and bring this joint down. There we go. And we have to start working on all this. Let's start by working on this side. And we're going to untab this and untab this. So those are untabbed. This is untabbed, and flip it around. And then we're going to lift this up. Let's get a better look at how it's going. I'm going to flip this around. These two tabs tab into slots right here, which is pretty simple. That closes up. We're going to flip this around and have this ready to tab in. Get it into position so we can tab in when the time comes. Same thing over here. Get it into position for when the time comes. Flip this around. Let's work on this foot. This is the heel spur. See, stuff comes untabbed as it comes untabbed. As you're untabbing other stuff, things just seem to come untabbed. We're going to flip this around like so. That tabs in, and we've got the heel spur in the works. Hold on a second. That's not quite tabbed in. Now it's tabbed in. Flip around the die cast metal and plastic combination parts, and flip it around this way. Get the toe out, and we're going to extend this leg all the way. Work on this piece here. Tab that in, and then the plastic piece needs to go into here so it holds. That one worked pretty simple. Then we're going to have to tab this in here, this one in to here, and we're going to back it up and clean it up. Let's get a better shot of this. From here, we're going to need to orientate the hips properly. on both sides. I don't know where that stuff's coming from. Alright, and I guess it doesn't really matter if you're front or back because that's just the way it's going to be. This side's not wanting to stay in on the knee. Let's move it around to the front. And some of the stuff tabs in better than some of the other stuff, so that's just the way it is with the design. And I like having the legs done, so here we are with some legs that are pretty close to done. I think I have this knee not orientated properly. And there is that. We're going to work on hip skirts in a little bit. Right now, we have to start dealing with this upper body. Let's get repositioned on the camera. Okay, my light keeps popping on. Now we've got him in this sort of configuration. A lot of stuff still going on with him. But I do want to point out right now, before we go any further, all the extra added detail in here with all of this, as in you'd see this whenever he was looking out, and somehow he would see what's going on way far away, and he'd see it on his little computer monitors. Here's a lot of internal workings inside. Just amazing amount of detail that you're almost never ever gonna see, but it's pretty impressive that they went through all of the trouble for that. I do like that. So we're gonna go ahead and close these up for now, get them a bit out of the way. I really want to get as much out of the way as I can. We do need to get these hip skirts out of here. Get the hip skirts out. And then we need to fold the hip skirts around. And you know, the funny thing is, it really doesn't matter what direction you fold the hip skirts to, and then plug the other hip skirts into the hip skirts waist, because of they're symmetrical, so they're exactly the same on both sides. So that's a good feature to have. You start working your way up this direction here, and we need to rotate this around. We're gonna pop this down, but let's go ahead and open these. Are we in frame? In frame, we are in frame. Okay, let's open this up here to where we are now going to be able to pop this down a bit. And it pushes the head up, so you have to do that. Now, as you can see, this side's untabbed. Right here, we're going to untab this right here, and that's going to work fine. And we're going to need to reposition this into the cavity, and this has a lot of articulation to it. There it goes. Pushing it in there, and then we're going to kind of accordion these in and tab them in. That's how that works. You want to clear everything, and the thing is not to shove or push anything on this figure. Just make sure you got it lined right, and that's good advice for any figure that you're transforming. If it feels like it's not going, make sure you've got everything positioned properly. And you know, this looks like it could be the front, it looks like it could be the back. Huh. Turn it around. Could be the front, or it could be the back. What do you think? All right, let's get these out of the way. Repeat this whole entire process again. It's gonna have to, this is the bent up horn that we'll talk about, we already talked about. All right, let's get this in here all of the way. Accordion this guy in. Is everything clearing okay? And is everything going to tab in okay? Here it goes. On this other side. So we need to untab this. It slides up, and then this came untabbed itself. I didn't untab this on purpose, but since it's right here, we can easily fold that like so, fold that like so, and this tab is going to tab into the back of it where the head goes. I guess you could see that. And we'll tab this puppy back in. I'll get that tabbed in, fix the head, and we'll have a look at this guy. We do need to connect these planetary rings, so extend this and untab this part and plug it in to right here, and then adjust it to however you would like. Same thing on the other side, and we need to untab and then fold them all out, plug it in on the other side. Here he is in robot mode. I do have to admit that he's a good size for a figure, and he looks great. Now, he's not the biggest, and we're going to get into that in size comparisons, but he does feel like a pretty big bot compared to a lot of these other ones that I have been looking at lately. He's a pretty good size. It feels pretty big. Now, this figure does evoke the look of Unicron. So let's take a deeper look at him and look into articulation. First of all, there's a lot going on with his head. First, you have some articulation in his head. It goes up, down, all around. You can go side to side with it. But the head is where all of the lighting and electronics is. So as you can see, as you might be able to see, there's the eyes that go on and off. And I'm really impressed with the eyes, because even with the fact that you don't have the light on, you have reflective eyes. You don't just see emptiness in there. That is a beautiful paint in the eyes. Something like, I don't really feel like they had to do it. They did it anyway. So that's one of those things they could have gotten away without doing it and just cheaped out. And that was really awesome. This is also going to be the light up feature for the mouth, and we saw that already. Now, looking down, further down, there's not a whole lot of paint on him, but he's huge. I mean, why would you expect there to be paint on every square inch of this guy? There's not. But we do have some silver paint apps going on right here, and some silver and some blue paint apps on his shoulder right there. You can see that kind of throughout. Now, there are some panels, and I left these panels on for robot mode. There are panels in, we already talked about that. But I don't think swapping the panels out, if you're going to use this figure in display in bot mode, would be a good idea. It would only be for like a planet mode kind of thing. Now, you do get pretty much a 360 in the shoulder, and it was part of the transformation. You've got this really nice, solid metal ratcheted joint there. It's you got to have strength right there. I'm glad they did that. So you have a lot of posability with the shoulder. You can take it out all the way to the 90 if you do it just right. You can get the arm out to the 90. You have, of course, the bicep swivel, double jointed elbow. And of course, if you do that right, you can get it almost all the way up. That's like all you would need. So it's great. The hand itself. Now the hand, it's good, but I kind of thought I was going to get more out of it than I actually did. So, of course, you can move that around. Your thumb has 2 points of articulation, one here, one there. Then you have on the fingers, right here at the knuckle, and then another knuckle, and then another joint right here, and then on the end, a joint right there. That's cool, but the splaying motion is what I like the most for this character, and it does splay, but not as much as I thought it would. But it's for that whole slamming on a planet, and that's kind of his look, and that's one of the poses I'm going to use him in the most. Getting down to the waist, if you pull up on him and kind of wiggle it up, you do get an ab crunch, and again, I want to mention it's not the easiest to get working, but there it is. You can get an ab crunch out of him, and you do have swivel in the chest, and you got waist swivel. So, I mean, you can do quite a bit with the articulation, more than I thought there'd be. But then again, you could say it's all due to the transformation. You got the hip skirts go up so that you can get a lot of articulation in the leg, and you have that in the thigh too. But anyway, you can get 90 both directions, pretty much. Or show that off. And then you have thigh rotation right at the 90 at the knee, and This little piece here likes to come undone. And we're going to talk about the feet for real quick for a second. Now, when it comes to the feet, this guy has a lot going on with his feet. That's called a jump cut. All right, we're going to jump cut to the feet here because I'm going to show you some stuff on it. But this keeps coming undone on mine, so I don't know if this is just mine or if this is everyone's, which is not a big deal because I still view this guy as a display piece. Get him in his spot and then display him. But still, looking at the ankles, you can pull it out a bit and you can get a whole lot more out of it if you want the tilt and the rocker and all that. Now it rocks, the tilt's more in the toe than anything, has a good heel spur. So there's a lot there to give him some support. Doesn't feel quite as stable as I would think with all that's going on with the foot. I still have to kind of make sure he's set up right. But they offer you the stability if you're going to put the time in to make sure it's set up right. But a lot of options, a lot of ways to display them. Pretty good. And now to compare Zeta to Zeta and Zeta to DX9. I don't know about you, but it does seem odd that Unicron is smaller than the combiners. I would have really liked to have seen Unicron at least bigger than the combiners. That would have been nice, but it's not the world we live in unless you buy the HasLab, but he does look good. And the fact that I'm actually going to display him and HasLab on a completely different shelf is actually fine for my collection, and it'll work okay for me. But for those of you that kind of put all the big bots together, it's not going to make much sense. Yes, it would have been nice for Unicron to have also be bigger than the Titans, the Metroplex, and Fort Max and all of them, but that's not the case. So there you go. Let's do a few comparisons here. I'm going to start off comparing them to the first version of Unicron that we got, and that would be the Armada, lovingly referred to as the Armada Unicron. And I got two different versions here. Neither one of them are complete. My completest one I use in the alt mode. So this is to give you an idea of size and overall general aesthetic. And so yeah, he looks cleaner, but the transformation's a little bit more involved than it is with these guys. I do want to point out how the Armada version has the planetary ring, or the cape as some people call it, on the back versus on the shoulders, which gives us more of the Unicron look for this part, but I think we can kind of get away with it the way Zeta did it, or 01 Studio. So here he is next to Megatron, MP36, the Magneton version of Megatron, and he is way bigger than Megatron, but he is definitely not Masterpiece scaled. Masterpiece scale, he would be massively huge. Here he is with some Legends scale figures, and so kind of what all of my Legends collector viewers have been saying, that the Legends scale is going to work really well with this, and I probably should have brought some movie characters into this mix, but you get the whole idea and the whole point. If you remember these $1 bag clips, that's what he looks like next to the $1 bag clips from Dollar Tree. Can you see him? He's right there. Can you see him? And the Dollar Tree also offered these little guys, which I was like, why am I buying these? Now I see why I'm buying them. And no matter what you do, nothing's going to be absolutely scale. But what looks better, I like to point that out. Glad I picked these guys up to accompany Unicron. So this has been the 01 Studio Cell SO1 or Zeta Core Star Unicron. And it's a good looking Unicron. He definitely matches the animations, the colors match up fine. Good looking bot. The strength is definitely in his bot mode. Not as strong in his alt mode, but his alt mode isn't horrible. It's not bad, it's just not as strong as his robot mode. And guess what? That's what most people will display this guy as, the robot mode. And for that, you have a bit of a challenging transformation. and a lot of fiddly bits that could fall off or sadly potentially break. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. You can get yours at Shozy. I'll have a link down below. Like, subscribe, Trader Hanger out.